Hey gang! So I've just spent 350 hours on this song, and I'd like to talk about it a little bit. It's a reimagination of my 2019 song Subvert, but it wasn't originally supposed to be. And I feel like if Subvert marked the beginning of my funky electro house arc, then Invert, this song, brings everything back full circle. To preserve the original identity of Subvert, I wanted to retain the motifs and themes from the original, which here primarily take the form of 4 main melodies and a couple chord progressions from the original. I also wanted to introduce some new ones. To start right off, we go right into the original Subvert melody in the intro. There's also what I would consider afterward to be the main Invert melody, which is this one. And then further on, I'm reusing a bunch of Subvert melodies throughout the song. So for example, this one here, which is originally from the second chorus, but here it's used like a verse or like a breakdown. And there's things like this melody here, which is from the first chorus. Of course, this is a variation on it. There's lots of minor variations on lots of these melodies. So I wanted to reuse stuff, but I didn't really want to lean too heavily on Subvert's themes. I wanted to have the song have its own identity. Another thing that I was really intent on doing is sort of reappropriating the core elements of Subvert's original melody. The original Subvert melody goes, the first few notes of it go like this. We go E, A sharp, D sharp, C sharp, A sharp. And in my orchestral part, where everything's much slower, we get something similar happening in terms of melodic movement, but with a vastly different tone. So my hope was it would feel referential to Subvert, but also fresh, like a different angle on it or something. Let's now talk about instrumentation. That saxophone that I mentioned earlier is a very central component of the song. It's a phase plant preset made by Joel Blanco-Berg. It is just so controllable, so expressive, so realistic sounding for something that is fully synthesized. There are no samples involved in this thing. Crazy. Even with just these two controllers, the vibrato and the mod wheel, which controls dynamics and stuff, you can create some really realistic sounding performances. And for a lot of the melodies that I made in this song, I ended up whistling into the microphone and creating all these, variations on melodic ideas. And what I was able to do was then just go through the ones I liked and transcribe them by ear. And when you're whistling, you do a lot of bend notes and vibrato and trills and stuff like that. And I was able to recreate that expressiveness surprisingly easily using this patch, which is something that I find is either very cumbersome when it comes to real sounding instruments because they'll use key switches or something, as opposed to directly automatable parameters. Or it's easy, but it's not a real sound, it's like a synth or something. Obviously this is synthesized, but it sounds real. And that's a combination of traits, a real sounding instrument with highly automatable parameters that I've never actually really worked with before. And so that's very exciting for me. And it's why I've kind of spammed this saxophone all throughout. We've got lots of other layers on top of the saxophone. We've got trumpets, trombone, got violins, some Rhodes. We've got this synth, bunch of synths actually. This one in particular is originally from Subvert. And I wanted to include that to kind of get a similar timbre to the original Subvert lead. When you've got such a variety of lead instruments like this, it's really fun to let them have some sort of interplay. You can have little solo sections, parts where they swap, all come together, play different segments of the melody, and it's super simple. But really effective, and you can hear a lot of this throughout the song. So let's talk about chords real quick. I'm not doing anything super unusual in this song, except for the fact that along with my super saws and my distorted bass, I'm also layering an acoustic guitar, specifically this Contact library, which is itself, it's kind of OP. It's kind of restrictive in that it doesn't let you do your own performances. it can only play chords, and sometimes you can't even play the chord that you want, but it will play every basic chord, and it will let you do it with hundreds of different performances, which, while very restrictive in an absolute sense, is also highly versatile. They always sound realistic. I'm layering that with my super saws, and that adds a lot of width in like the low mids, in a very pleasant and kind of real sounding way, which is sometimes a bit of a tricky thing. And pretty much the same goes for my bass layer, which is this super simple Serum side bass that I am all but ruining with like some guitar chugs. This contact guitar in particular, the Sunburst guitar. This song uses a lot of like dubsteppy wub-wub stuff, but also leans heavily on my big slap bass and lots of percussive fills. A lot of them are kind of bongo-like, or they go bonk or donk. For our more dubsteppy basses, this is just an example. I like to do a lot of simple FM from B stuff in Serum. This is RM from B, like ring modulation, but the same principle applies. My second wavetable has a more complex sound, which is I think one of Seamless R's wavetables. And we've got some movement in that with the bend mode and just wavetable position. And this is ring modulating, just a simple saw wave. As with every song, there's a lot of other stuff I could talk about, but I wanted to keep things brief, so I appreciate everyone who got this far. Thank you. I also appreciate Arista. He made the art for Invert. Here's a quick time lapse of that.